Hey friends, tonight we're stepping far back in time to a world of marble temples, bustling markets, and brutal realities. But don't worry, you're not here to fight in a phalanx or debate Socrates. You're here to walk in the worn-out sandals of someone rarely mentioned in history books. You're a slave in ancient Greece. In Sparta, kings once declared war on the Helots each autumn, legally sanctioning their killings, a ritual reminder that some lives were never meant to matter. Let me know in the comments where in the world you're tuning in from and what time it is. It's always amazing to see how far and wide our sleepy little journeys travel. Now, lower the lights, take a deep breath, and let yourself drift back to a world where morning brings no gentle awakening. You feel the chill seep through your bones as consciousness returns to your aching body. The stone floor beneath you holds the night's cold like a cruel promise, radiating upward through the thin layer of straw that serves as your bed. Your eyes open to darkness, not the gentle darkness of a room with shuttered windows, but the harsh blackness of a space never meant for rest. The air tastes of dust and dampness, of bodies that have slept here before you and will sleep here after you're gone. The straw beneath you shifts and crackles with each movement, damp from the night's cold and scattered thin from months of use. You can feel the individual pieces poking through the rough fabric of your tunic, each one a small reminder that comfort is not meant for you. Someone else slept on this same straw last week, last month, last year. Their shape is still pressed into it, a ghost of misery that mirrors your own. Your name doesn't matter anymore. You remember it sometimes, in the moments between sleep and waking, but it belongs to someone who no longer exists. Here, you are simply boy or girl, defined only by what you can carry, clean, or accomplish before the sun sets. Your identity has been stripped away as efficiently as your freedom, leaving only function in its place. While free citizens stretch in comfortable beds, their bodies rested and their minds preparing for the day ahead, you're already moving before dawn breaks. Your body is a tool that must be ready, maintained only enough to perform its duties. The ache in your shoulders from yesterday's labor hasn't faded, but it doesn't matter. Pain is background noise now, constant as breathing. The household dogs sleep on softer bedding than you, their comfort a daily reminder of your place in this world. Their straw is fresh and dry, replaced when it becomes soiled or worn. They eat before you do, sleep after you wake, and receive gentle touches that you haven't felt in months. Even they seem to understand that you exist in a different realm, one where comfort is always conditional. Even your dreams belong to someone else now, interrupted by the sound of footsteps that mean your day has begun. Sleep offers no escape because it's always temporary, always threatened by the possibility that you'll be needed in the middle of the night. You've learned to sleep lightly, one ear always listening for the call that could come at any moment. The first light hasn't touched the courtyard, but already you hear the stirring of those who own your time. Footsteps echo across the stone floors above, the sound of free people beginning their day with choices you'll never have. They wake when they want, eat when they're hungry, speak when they have something to say. You wake when they need you, which is always before they know they need you. This is dehumanization in its purest form. You wake not as a person with hopes and needs and dreams, but as a function waiting to be used. Your humanity has been systematically stripped away, replaced by utility. You exist to serve, to work, to disappear when not needed, and appear instantly when called. The transition from person to property happens gradually, so slowly that you don't notice it until it's complete. The transition from sleep to servitude happens without ceremony, a daily death of self that no one acknowledges. There's no moment of recognition, no pause to consider what's being asked of you. You simply move from horizontal to vertical, from rest to labor, from dreams to duties. The world doesn't stop to mark this transition because it happens thousands of times each day, in countless households, to countless people whose names will never be recorded. You rise because you must, not because you choose to. The choice has been taken from you along with everything else. Your body moves through the familiar motions of waking, but your mind remains trapped in the space between sleep and consciousness. That brief moment when you might still be someone else, somewhere else. The darkness around you is complete, broken only by the faint suggestion of stars through the narrow opening that serves as your window. You can't see the other shapes sleeping nearby, but you can hear their breathing, feel their presence in the shared space of your captivity. Some of them whimper in their sleep, small sounds of distress that no one will comfort. Others lie perfectly still, as if afraid that even their dreams might disturb someone. Your body knows the routine without conscious thought. Stand carefully to avoid stepping on others. Feel your way to the corner where your day clothes wait, if you're lucky enough to have more than one set. Pull the rough fabric over your head, feeling the way it hangs loose in some places and tight in others, never quite fitting because it wasn't made for you specifically. The cold air hits your exposed skin like a slap, reminding you that even the weather is hostile to your existence. You have no way to warm yourself, no fire of your own, no extra clothing to ward off the chill. The cold becomes part of your body, settling into your bones where it will stay all day, a constant reminder of your powerlessness over even the most basic aspects of your existence. You stand in the darkness, fully awake now, fully present in your reality. The day stretches ahead of you like a path through hostile territory, each step uncertain, each moment dependent on the whims of others. Your hands already ache from yesterday's endless tasks, but there's no time to rest them. The familiar weight of duty presses down on you as you prepare to begin another day of being simultaneously essential and invisible. The wooden bucket feels heavier each morning, your hands already raw from yesterday's endless tasks. The rope handle cuts into your palms where yesterday's blisters have barely begun to heal, and today's work will tear them open again. Your fingers wrap around the rough hemp, feeling the familiar burn that signals another day of carrying water that belongs to everyone except you. The bucket itself is older than your bondage, its wood worn smooth by countless hands that have gripped it in the darkness, each person adding their own layer of suffering to its surface. Your day begins hours before your master's family stirs, in darkness that feels like it will never end. The courtyard around you exists in shades of black and grey, a world drained of colour and warmth. You can't see the other figures moving through their morning routines, but you know they're there by the soft shuffle of bare feet on stone, the quiet clatter of pottery, the whispered curses when someone stubs a toe on the uneven ground. The darkness hides your faces from each other, but it can't hide the shared weight of exhaustion that hangs over all of you like a burial shroud. One stumble, one dropped vessel, one moment of human weakness could mean violence or worse. The threat lives in every step you take, every object you handle, every breath you draw. Your body has learned to move with careful precision, each motion calculated to avoid the accidents that bring punishment. The wooden bucket swings gently as you walk, its rhythm hypnotic, almost soothing, until you remember that dropping it would mean more than just spilled water. It would mean explaining to someone who owns you why you failed, why you're not worth the food they give you, why you deserve whatever pain they choose to inflict. You navigate the courtyard by memory, feet finding their way to the well where other shadows move in silent routine. The stones beneath your feet are familiar now, each crack and dip mapped in your mind through months of walking this same path in the dark. Your toes know where the ground dips slightly near the olive tree, where a loose stone rocks when you step on it, where the path narrows between the storage jars. The well stands at the center of it all, a dark circle that promises the water you need to begin another day of service. The water is cold enough to shock your system awake, a brutal baptism into another day of invisible labor. When you lower the bucket into the well, you hear it hit the surface with a soft splash that echoes up from the depths. The sound is hollow, lonely, like a voice calling from somewhere far below. As you pull the rope hand over hand, feeling the weight of the full bucket drag at your shoulders, the cold water sloshes against the sides, and drops escape to hit your feet like tiny, icy needles. Chamber pots must be emptied, floors swept, fires kindled, all before the household notices you exist. The work follows a pattern as rigid as the sunrise, each task building on the last, each one essential to the comfort of people who will never acknowledge your effort. You carry the heavy pots to the waste pit behind the house, trying not to breathe through your nose, trying not to think about the dignity you lose with each step. The floors require water and rags, your knees grinding against the stone as you scrub away the evidence of yesterday's living. Your stomach gnaws at itself, but food comes only after everyone else has eaten, if there's anything left. The hunger is a constant companion now, a hollow ache that shapes every decision you make. You smell the bread baking in the kitchen, catch the scent of olive oil and fresh herbs drifting from the cooking fire, hear the sizzle of meat that will never touch your tongue. Your mouth waters automatically, your body responding to the promise of nourishment even when your mind knows better. Every task carries the weight of potential punishment, turning simple chores into acts of survival. The broom in your hands becomes a weapon that could be turned against you if you miss a spot, if you're too slow, if you're not careful enough with the furniture. The water you carry could be the excuse someone needs to strike you if you spill even a drop on the wrong surface. Each movement is a negotiation with danger, each completed task a small victory against the violence that always lurks just beyond the edge of your vision. The morning air carries sounds from the free world beyond the walls. You hear merchants calling their wares in the distance, their voices confident and loud, unafraid of drawing attention to themselves. Children laugh somewhere nearby, their joy a sound from another universe, one where happiness is possible and fear doesn't color every moment. Dogs bark at passing strangers, their simple animal concerns a luxury you can't afford. You are a ghost in the machine of daily life, essential but unseen, working in the spaces between other people's comfort. Your hands prepare the household for the day, but no one will see your work, only its results. The clean floors will be walked on without thought, the fresh water will be used without gratitude, the warm fires will be enjoyed without acknowledgement of the cold hands that built them. You exist in the gaps, in the moments before consciousness, in the darkness that makes light possible. The sun rises on a world that needs you desperately, but refuses to acknowledge your humanity. As the first pale light creeps across the courtyard, you see the results of your work clearly for the first time today. The swept stones, the filled water jars, the smoke rising from the kitchen fires, all testament to your existence, even though no one will credit you with creating them. Your labor creates the foundation for other people's lives, but you are not part of those lives, only their invisible support. The scents of the morning meal begin to drift from the kitchen, reminding you that your own hunger must wait. Your master's dog looks at you with something that might be pity as it finishes its meal. The animal's bowl gleams with the remnants of fresh meat and bread scraps, food that surpasses anything you've tasted in months. Its tail wags slowly as it licks the ceramic clean and settles into the warm spot by the kitchen fire. You watch this simple act of satisfaction, this moment of contentment that belongs to a creature valued more than you are. The dog's needs are considered, anticipated, met without question. It eats when hungry, sleeps when tired, receives gentle touches when it seeks comfort. Hunger becomes your constant companion, a hollow ache that defines your relationship with every meal you prepare but cannot eat. The emptiness in your stomach grows so familiar that you almost forget what fullness feels like. It starts as a whisper each morning, a gentle reminder that you need sustenance, but by midday it becomes a roar that drowns out other thoughts. Your body learns to function on this emptiness, to work through the weakness that comes from insufficient fuel. The ache becomes part of your identity, as much a part of you as your own heartbeat. You handle fresh bread, ripe olives, and sweet wine, while your own stomach contracts with emptiness. Your hands break the warm loaves for the household table, feeling the soft interior, smelling the yeast and wheat that make your mouth water uncontrollably. The olives glisten with oil as you arrange them in perfect patterns on serving dishes, their rich scent filling your nostrils while your stomach clenches with need. You pour wine from clay vessels, watching the deep red liquid catch the light, knowing its warmth and flavor will never touch your tongue. Each meal you prepare becomes a form of torture, a daily reminder of abundance that surrounds you but never includes you. The barley mush you eventually receive is cold, sometimes moldy, always insufficient to fuel the labor demanded of your body. The grey paste sits in a chipped bowl, its surface congealed and uninviting. You've learned to eat it quickly before you can think too much about its taste or texture. Sometimes green spots of mold speckle the mixture, but you eat around them or simply swallow them down, knowing that complaints will only mean less food tomorrow. The mush provides just enough sustenance to keep you functioning, but never enough to satisfy the deep hunger that gnaws at your insides. You learn to eat quickly, standing, ready to return to work the moment your master requires something. There's no time for the slow enjoyment of food, no moment to savor even the little you're given. You stand in the corner of the kitchen, spooning the cold mush into your mouth while your ears stay alert for any sound that might signal you're needed elsewhere. The other household members sit at tables, take their time with conversation, laugh between bites of their feast. You remain vertical, ready to abandon your meager meal at the first command. Other slaves share knowing glances over their meager portions, a silent communion of shared deprivation. You recognize the hollow look in their eyes, the way they hold their bowls protectively, the careful way they scrape every last bit of food from the bottom. No words pass between you, but understanding flows in the space between your shared suffering. You see them swallow hard when they smell the good food, watch them close their eyes briefly when the hunger becomes too much to bear. The irony cuts deep when you realize you know exactly how much food passes through this household because you prepare it all. You count the loaves of bread, measure the oil, portion the meat, arrange the fruits and vegetables in perfect displays. Your hands touch more food in a single day than you'll eat in a week, yet none of it belongs to you. You know the household's appetite, understand their preferences, anticipate their needs. You can predict how much will be consumed and how much will be thrown away, scraps that would sustain you for days but instead feed the pigs or rot in the waste pit. This malnutrition becomes a tool of control, keeping you weak enough to be manageable. The careful calculation of your starvation serves a purpose beyond mere cruelty. Your weakened state makes rebellion impossible, resistance futile. You lack the strength to fight, the energy to run, the clarity of mind to plan escape. The hunger clouds your thinking, makes you focus on immediate survival rather than long-term freedom. Your master understands this equation perfectly, providing just enough sustenance to keep you functional while ensuring you remain powerless. Your body adapts to this constant deprivation in ways that frighten you. Your ribs become visible through your skin, your arms thin to the point where your tunic hangs loose. Your hair loses its shine, your skin takes on a grey pallor that speaks of malnutrition. You feel your muscles wasting away, your strength diminishing with each passing day. The physical changes mirror the emotional ones, your spirit shrinking along with your body. The taste of hunger becomes so familiar that you almost forget what it feels like to be truly satisfied. You remember vague impressions of fullness from before your bondage, but they feel like dreams now, too distant to be real. Your body's memory of satisfaction fades, replaced by this new normal of perpetual want. You begin to doubt your own recollections of better meals, better times, better treatment. The constant hunger rewrites your past, making your current suffering seem inevitable, natural, the only reality you've ever known. But hunger is not your only master. Soon you will carry the weight of coins that represent more wealth than you will ever possess, conducting transactions in a world where your very presence serves as both labor and reminder of what you can never become. The agora spreads before you like a living map of commerce, every stall and corner bustling with activity that depends on people like you. You walk through the marketplace carrying coins that will never be yours, conducting business in which you have no stake. The leather pouch bounces against your hip with each step, heavy with silver that represents more wealth than you'll see in a lifetime. Your fingers have counted these coins so many times you know their weight by touch, can tell the difference between a fresh minted drachma and one worn smooth by countless hands. Yet for all your familiarity with this money, it remains as foreign to you as the language of birds. The marketplace reveals the full scope of slavery's integration into Greek society. You are not hidden, but displayed. Slaves carry goods, negotiate prices, handle money, manage inventory, yet none of this participation grants them membership in the world they serve. You move through crowds of free citizens who barely register your presence, their eyes sliding past you as if you were part of the architecture. A moving pillar that supports their economic life but deserves no more attention than the stones beneath their feet. Free citizens can strike you in public with no consequence, your body an acceptable target for their frustrations. The threat hangs over every interaction like a storm cloud, ready to break without warning. You've seen it happen to others, watched a merchant's temper flare over a delayed delivery or a dropped amphora, watched his hand connect with a slave's face while the crowd looked on with indifference. Your body belongs to your master, but in the marketplace it becomes public property, available for anyone's anger or amusement. You move carefully, speak softly, keep your eyes down, trying to make yourself small enough to avoid notice. You recognize other slaves by their downcast eyes and careful movements, a network of the powerless moving through the powerful. They walk with the same measured steps you've learned, shoulders slightly hunched, heads tilted down just enough to show deference without appearing servile. Their hands move with the same precision, handling goods as if each item might explode at the slightest mistreatment. You catch fragments of their conversations, whispered exchanges about difficult masters, scarce food, aching bodies. These brief connections sustain you, moments of shared understanding in a world determined to isolate you from human connection. Merchants know your status instantly, sometimes shortchanging you knowing you cannot protest effectively. They read the signs in your posture, your clothing, the way you hesitate before speaking. Some deal with you fairly, understanding that cheating a slave might anger their master and cost them future business. Others see opportunity in your powerlessness, counting out fewer coins than agreed upon, knowing you have no recourse. You must choose your battles carefully, weighing the risk of confrontation against the certainty of punishment if you return home with less than expected. The coins you handle represent more wealth than you will ever possess, yet they pass through your hands daily. Each piece of silver bears the image of Athena, goddess of wisdom and warfare, her owl perched beside her as a symbol of knowledge and protection. The irony cuts deep as you realize that wisdom and protection are exactly what you lack, despite handling thousands of coins bearing their symbols. You've memorized the weight of various denominations, can spot a counterfeit by its color or feel, yet all this expertise serves only to make you a more valuable tool in someone else's prosperity. You witness the slave trade itself, human beings evaluated like livestock, their worth determined by their teeth and muscles. The slave merchants work from a corner of the agora, their merchandise displayed on wooden platforms that double as auction books. You watch potential buyers examining other slaves like horses at market, checking their teeth for signs of age or disease, feeling their arms for muscle strength, examining their hands for calluses that might indicate brachy. Useful skills. The slaves stand silent through this inspection, their eyes fixed on some distant point, their minds perhaps fleeing to places where such treatment is unimaginable. The prices called out by the auctioneers reveal the cold economics of human bondage. A skilled craftsman might bring 180 drachmas, while a strong field worker commands less than half that amount. Children are priced by their potential rather than their current abilities, their futures sold before they've had a chance to shape them. You hear the buyers discussing their purchases in the same tones they might use to debate the quality of olive oil or the freshness of fish, reducing human complexity to simple questions of utility and cost. Every transaction reminds you that you too are property, that your presence here is conditional. The legal reality of your status hovers over every interaction like a shadow, darkening even the most routine exchanges. You are here because your master needs goods, and you will stop being here the moment he no longer needs you. The temporary nature of your existence in this space mirrors the temporary nature of your existence in the world, both subject to the whims of others. The economy runs on your labor, yet you are excluded from its benefits, a living contradiction of the system. You see the prosperity your work creates, the comfortable lives your effort makes possible, the leisure that your toil provides for others. The goods you carry, the services you perform, the transactions you facilitate, all contribute to a vast network of wealth and comfort that surrounds you, but never includes you. You return home with goods for others, your own needs never appearing on any shopping list. The purchases you've made reflect the desires and requirements of free people, their preferences and whims translated into tangible items that will enhance their lives. Your own needs remain invisible, unspoken, irrelevant to the economic calculations that determine what gets bought and sold. You carry food you will not eat, clothes you will not wear, luxuries you will not enjoy, tools you will not own. But even this shared powerlessness creates its own divisions, as you will soon discover when you return to face those who share your bondage, yet somehow find ways to look down upon you. Back in the household, the divisions among your fellow slaves cut deeper than any master's whip. Even among slaves, there are those who look down on you, creating a ladder of suffering with you near the bottom. The household reveals its own caste system where your fellow slaves compete for scraps of dignity, each person clinging to whatever small advantage they can claim over those beneath them. You discover that oppression doesn't create solidarity among its victims, but instead breeds a desperate hunger for status that turns the powerless against each other. The educated slave who manages accounts treats you with the same disdain the master shows him. His Greek is flawless, his writing elegant, his mathematical skills impressive enough to handle complex business transactions. When he speaks to you, his voice carries the same tone of superiority that free citizens use with him, as if cruelty is a language he's learned to speak fluently. He sits at a small desk in the corner of the main room, scrolls spread before him, calculating profits and losses while you sweep the floors around his feet. His stylus scratches against the wax tablet as he records numbers that represent wealth he'll never possess, yet he looks at you as if you're the one who should be grateful for the opportunity to serve. House slaves consider themselves superior to field workers, creating divisions that prevent unity among the oppressed. The woman who tends the master's clothing speaks of field hands as if they're a different species, her voice filled with the same disgust that free citizens reserve for all slaves. She arranges tunics and cloaks with careful precision, her hands clean and soft compared to yours, her work performed in shade rather than blazing sun. When you enter her domain to clean, she watches you with suspicious eyes, as if your presence might contaminate the fine fabrics she maintains. Her elevated status within the household becomes a source of pride that she guards jealously, defining herself not by her own freedom, but by her distance from greater suffering. You clean the rooms where other slaves conduct business, your labor supporting their slightly elevated status. The house steward reviews lists of supplies while you scrub the floors beneath his feet, your work creating the clean environment that allows him to focus on his duties. His responsibilities include managing other slaves, a position that grants him the power to issue commands and expect obedience. He speaks to you in clipped sentences, never please or thank you, just instructions delivered with the assumption that you'll comply immediately. Your labor makes his work possible, yet he treats you as if you're an obstacle to be managed, rather than a person whose efforts support his own small measure of authority. The slave who dresses the master's hair speaks to you only in commands, having internalized the language of dominance. His fingers work with practiced skill, arranging curls and applying oils with the precision of a craftsman. The master sits still and silent during these sessions, occasionally commenting on his appearance or the day's plans, treating the slave as part of the furniture despite his intimate access to the master's person. When this slave encounters you in the hallways, he barks orders as if he's forgotten his own bondage, his temporary proximity to power transforming him into an echo of the master's authority. Personal slaves who attend symposiums return with stories of intellectual discourse you'll never experience. They speak of philosophical debates about justice and virtue, of poetry recited by men who discuss the nature of the soul while being served by people they don't consider fully human. These slaves carry themselves differently after these evenings, their posture straighter, their speech more refined, as if proximity to learning has elevated them above their station. They drop names of famous guests, repeat fragments of important conversations, wear their access to high culture like a badge of honor. When they encounter you, their eyes hold a mixture of pity and superiority, as if your exclusion from these gatherings proves your lesser worth even among the enslaved. The system succeeds partly by convincing slaves that their suffering has meaning through comparison to others who suffer more. Each small privilege becomes a treasure to be hoarded, each slight elevation in status a victory worth defending. The house slave feels superior to the field worker, the personal attendant looks down on the general laborer, the educated slave dismisses the illiterate. These divisions run so deep that slaves competing for the same scraps of dignity rarely recognize their shared oppression, instead focusing on the narrow differences that separate them from those they consider beneath them. you discover that oppression creates its own hierarchies, turning victims against each other instead of their oppressors. The energy that might be directed toward resistance gets channeled into maintaining these artificial distinctions, into protecting small privileges that could vanish at any moment. Slaves who might otherwise support each other instead compete for the master's favor, each hoping to climb slightly higher on the ladder of suffering. The system feeds on this division, drawing strength from the way oppression corrupts its victims, turning natural human desires for dignity and respect into weapons against solidarity. Your position near the bottom of this hierarchy means that almost everyone has someone to look down upon, and you serve as that person for many of your fellow slaves. The woman who manages the kitchen speaks to you as if you're slow-witted. The man who tends the garden issues orders as if you're a tool rather than a person. The child who serves as a page treats you with the casual dismissiveness he's learned from observing free citizens. Your suffering becomes the foundation for their small sense of superiority, your degradation the source of their relative elevation. Yet even this cruel hierarchy has its pinnacle, those moments when some slaves are called to serve in the presence of greatness itself, to stand silent witness to the intellectual heights of Greek civilization while remaining forever excluded from its light. The symposium becomes your stage for witnessing greatness while remaining forever invisible. You stand in the corner holding a wine pitcher, its clay surface cool against your palms, waiting for the signal that means someone needs their cup refilled. The room glows with warm lamplight dancing across faces of men whose thoughts will echo through centuries. Conversations flow around you like water around a stone, profound discussions of justice and beauty and truth that wash over you without touching your reality. You are close enough to hear every word, to witness the birth of ideas that will shape human thought for millennia, yet you remain as distant from this intellectual feast as if you were watching from another world. These evening gatherings reveal the intellectual heights of Greek society, while you remain forever excluded from their elevated discourse. The men recline on couches arranged in a perfect circle, their bodies relaxed, their minds engaged in the kind of leisurely contemplation that your life makes possible. They speak of virtue and wisdom, of the ideal state and the perfect citizen, their words flowing as smoothly as the wine you pour. The room fills with thoughtful debate, punctuated by laughter and occasional applause when someone makes a particularly clever point. You watch their faces light up with the joy of discovery, the pleasure of intellectual combat, the satisfaction of minds meeting in perfect harmony. You hear discussions of freedom and democracy while your own bondage makes their comfort possible. The irony cuts through you like a blade as you listen to passionate speeches about the rights of citizens, the importance of liberty, the natural equality of all men. These words hang in the air above your head like stars you can see but never reach, beautiful and distant and completely irrelevant to your existence. The very men who speak most eloquently about freedom own you as surely as they own their furniture, their oxen, their farming tools. Their leisure to contemplate these lofty ideals depends entirely on your labor, your sacrifice, your surrender of everything that makes life worth living. Philosophers debate the nature of the soul while treating you as if you have none. You listen as they explore questions of consciousness and identity, of what makes a person truly human, of whether the soul is immortal or dies with the body. Their voices rise and fall with the rhythm of serious inquiry, each speaker building on the thoughts of the last, creating elaborate theories about the essence of humanity. Meanwhile, you stand motionless in your corner, your own consciousness ignored, your own soul dismissed as irrelevant to their grand theories. To them, you are a living tool, a piece of property that happens to move and think, but possesses no inner life worth considering. You refill wine cups for men who will be remembered for millennia, while your name dies with your body. The pitcher grows lighter with each pour, the wine flowing from vessel to vessel like liquid time, marking the passage of hours that these men will remember as among the finest of their lives. You know their names, have heard them spoken with reverence throughout the city. Understand that their words tonight will be recorded and studied and quoted by generations yet unborn. Your own name, if you even remember it anymore, will vanish completely when your body finally gives out, leaving no trace in the historical record, no monument to mark your passing. The irony burns as you realize you are close enough to touch greatness, but forbidden from participating in it. Your hand brushes against the shoulder of a famous philosopher as you lean forward to refill his cup, your fingers briefly making contact with a man whose thoughts will influence human civilization for thousands of years. Yet this physical proximity only emphasizes the infinite distance between your worlds. You could reach out and touch any of these men, could speak words that might change the course of their discussion, could contribute insights born from your unique perspective on suffering and survival. But your voice is forbidden, your thoughts unwelcome, your humanity denied. Drunk citizens sometimes abuse you for sport, their elevated thoughts not extending to elevated behavior. As the wine flows more freely, some guests lose their philosophical composure, their noble discussions giving way to cruder entertainments. You become a target for their amusement, your powerlessness a source of entertainment for men who spend their sober hours debating the nature of justice. They trip you as you walk past, laugh when you stumble, make crude jokes about your appearance or your status. The contrast between their lofty ideals and their petty cruelties reveals the hollowness at the heart of their philosophy, the way their moral theories conveniently exclude the people who make their comfortable lives possible. You witness the birth of ideas that will shape civilization while being denied the basic dignity of personhood. The conversation turns to questions of government, of how society should be organized, of what rights citizens should possess. You hear the foundations being laid for concepts that will eventually lead to declarations of human rights, to constitutions that proclaim the equality of all people, to legal systems that protect the innocent and punish the guilty. But these grand ideals are born in a room where you are property, where your suffering is invisible, where your humanity is denied. The wine you pour lubricates discussions of virtue by men who see no virtue in treating you as human. Each cup you fill enables another hour of noble discourse, another exchange of elevated thoughts, another moment of intellectual communion between minds that consider themselves the highest expression of caste, human achievement. The liquid flows from your pitcher like the blood from your veins, your essence poured out to sustain conversations that will never acknowledge your contribution, your sacrifice, your fundamental humanity. But the symposium is only one face of your bondage. Soon, the comfortable walls of the city will give way to open fields where your body will face an even more relentless master than human cruelty. The olive groves stretch endlessly before you, each tree a monument to labor that will never end. The ancient trunks twist skyward like arthritic fingers, their silver-green leaves shimmering in the morning heat that already promises another day of suffering. You count the rows stretching toward the horizon, knowing that your hands will touch every branch, your feet will walk every furrow, your back will bend beneath every laden bough. The trees seem to multiply as you watch, their numbers growing with your exhaustion, each one demanding tribute from your failing body. Rural work reveals slavery's most brutal face, where your body becomes a tool worn down by endless use. The city offered small mercies, moments of shade, brief encounters with other human beings who might acknowledge your existence. Here in the countryside, you discover the true purpose of your bondage, the raw extraction of labor that defines your worth in the most elemental terms. Your muscles become machinery, your endurance the only currency that matters, your pain irrelevant as long as productivity continues. The fields strip away any pretense of humanity, reducing you to your most basic function as a source of physical power that can be depleted without consequence. The overseers whip cracks not just as punishment, but as rhythm, setting the pace of your diminishing life. The lather snaps through the air like thunder, each sound a metronome marking the tempo of your work, the speed of your movements, the rate of your consumption. You learn to read the intervals between cracks, to anticipate the acceleration that means someone is falling behind, to adjust your pace to match the deadly music of forced labor. The whip becomes the conductor of an orchestra of suffering, its rhythm more reliable than sunrise, more constant than hunger, more familiar than your own heartbeat. Your hands crack and bleed, the bleeding hands still pick olives, still dig earth, still carry loads. The skin splits along the creases where dirt has ground itself into permanent stains, creating wounds that never heal because they reopen each morning with the first grip of the day. The olive oil stings these cuts, the salt from your sweat burns the raw flesh, The rough bark of the trees scrapes away what skin remains. You watch your blood mix with the earth, your body literally becoming part of the landscape that consumes you, your essence absorbed into soil that will outlast your bones. The sun that once warmed your free childhood now beats down like a hammer, each ray a blow to your endurance. The same star that blessed your early years with light and life becomes your enemy, its heat a weapon turned against you, its brightness a source of agony rather than joy. You remember when sunlight meant freedom to play, warmth to comfort, energy to explore. Now it means dehydration, exhaustion, the slow cooking of your flesh beneath clothes that offer no protection. The sun tracks across the sky like a predator stalking its prey, each hour bringing fresh torment, each shadow a brief sanctuary that you're not allowed to enjoy. You watch another slave collapse from exhaustion, his body dragged away like a broken cartwheel. The man falls between the rows of olive trees, his legs simply refusing to carry him further, his arms dropping to his sides as if the strings controlling them have been cut. The overseer checks for signs of life with the same attention he might give to a lame animal, prodding with his foot, listening for breath, calculating whether repair is possible or replacement necessary. Other slaves continue working around the fallen body, their eyes carefully averted, their movements unchanged, understanding that acknowledgement of his collapse might invite similar treatment. The natural beauty of the countryside becomes a prison when you cannot rest, cannot appreciate, cannot escape. The rolling hills that once promised adventure now form the walls of your captivity, their gentle slopes hiding the distances that separate you from any hope of freedom. The wildflowers that dot the meadows might as well be painted on stone for all the joy they bring, their colors meaningless to eyes that must focus only on the work at hand. The songs of birds become mockery, their freedom to fly wherever they choose, a cruel reminder of your permanent bondage to this patch of earth. Each day in the field steals more of your life, aging you beyond your years. You feel your body changing in ways that have nothing to do with natural time, your muscles wasting despite constant use, your joints stiffening despite continuous movement. The sun etches lines into your face deeper than your actual age should allow, while malnutrition hollows your cheeks and dims your eyes. Your hair grows thin and brittle, your skin takes on the grey pallor of someone much older, your movements slow with premature arthritis. The work follows patterns older than memory, routines established by generations of enslaved bodies that have worked this same land. You discover that your suffering is not unique, but part of a continuous stream of exploitation that stretches back through time like a river of pain. The paths between the trees have been worn smooth by countless feet, the handholds on the ladders polished by countless palms, the rhythms of harvest perfected by countless broken backs. You join a procession of the damned, your individual agony absorbed into a collective tragedy that no one records, no one remembers, no one mourns. You understand that your body is being consumed to feed the wealth of others, a slow sacrifice to their prosperity. The olives you pick will be pressed into oil that lubricates the comfortable lives of free citizens. The grain you harvest will become bread for tables you'll never sit at. The grapes you tend will ferment into wine that celebrates victories you'll never share. Your flesh and blood transform into gold that fills purses you'll never touch. Your years of life convert into leisure hours for people who will never know your name. The earth you work will outlast you, but it will never remember your name or acknowledge your blood. The soil drinks your sweat, absorbs your tears, receives your body's slow dissolution with the same indifference it shows to rain or sunshine. Yet even as the land consumes you, your flesh carries its own permanent record of this consumption, marks that will speak long after your voice falls silent. Your body tells the story of your bondage in marks that will never fade, a living testament to systematic cruelty. Each scar carries memory deeper than conscious thought, etched into your flesh like chapters in a book written by violence. The raised welts across your back map the history of your resistance, while the small circular burns on your arms record moments when you moved too slowly, spoke too boldly, or simply existed in the wrong place at the wrong gemel. Time. Your skin has become a canvas for others' anger, a permanent record of power exercised without restraint or consequence. Punishment in the slave system serves not just correction but communication, each scar a word in the vocabulary of oppression. The masters understand that physical pain teaches lessons beyond the immediate moment. that a well-placed blow carries messages that echo through weeks of behavior. Your scars speak to other slaves about the boundaries of acceptable conduct, about the swift and certain consequences of stepping outside your prescribed role. They communicate to free citizens about the natural order, about the necessity of violence in maintaining social stability. The language of scars requires no translation, its meaning clear to anyone who sees your marked flesh. The branding iron waits for runaways, its heat a promise that escape means permanent marking. You've heard the stories whispered among the other slaves, accounts of those who tried to flee and were caught, dragged back to face the red-hot metal that would forever identify them as property that had once dared to think itself free. The iron sits in the brazier during public punishments, its metal glowing orange then white as the coals heat it to the perfect temperature for searing flesh. The smell of burning skin becomes part of the lesson, a sensory memory that lingers long after the screaming stops. Public floggings serve as theatre, your pain performed for an audience that needs to remember their power. The square fills with citizens who gather to watch the spectacle, their faces showing a mixture of fascination and satisfaction as the whip falls across bare flesh. Your screams become part of the performance, evidence of the master's authority and the slave's complete helplessness. The crowd's reaction feeds the violence, their murmurs of approval or gasps of shock encouraging the one who wields the lash. These public displays transform individual punishment into collective reinforcement, reminding everyone present of their place in the social hierarchy. You learn to read the moods of your masters like weather patterns, knowing when storms of violence approach. The subtle changes in posture, the particular way their jaw tightens, the rhythm of their breathing when anger builds like clouds gathering before a thunderstorm. Your survival depends on this ability to anticipate their emotions, to recognize the warning signs that precede an explosion of rage. You study their faces with the intensity of a scholar reading ancient texts, memorizing every expression that might signal danger. This constant vigilance exhausts you, the mental energy required to predict and avoid violence leaving little room for other thoughts. Other slaves' injuries become your education, teaching you the precise boundaries of acceptable behavior. You observe their fresh wounds and backtrack through recent events, connecting specific actions to particular punishments until you understand the unwritten rules that govern your existence. The slave who spoke without permission shows you the cost of unauthorized speech through split lips and loosened teeth. The one who looked directly at a free citizen too long bears the evidence of that transgression in blackened eyes and swollen features. These living lessons prove more effective than any spoken warning, their physical reality impossible to ignore or forget. The threat of being sold away from the few relationships you've managed to form keeps you compliant. The other slaves become your only source of human connection, the only people who understand your daily reality without explanation. The possibility of losing these fragile bonds terrorizes you more than physical pain, because isolation represents a different kind of death. You've seen families torn apart, friends separated, lovers sold to different masters in distant cities. The grief that follows these separations goes beyond mourning, becoming a kind of living death that extinguishes something essential in those left behind. Fear becomes your constant companion, shaping every decision and limiting every hope. It lives in your chest like a separate heart, pumping anxiety through your veins instead of blood. Simple decisions become complex calculations of risk, each choice weighed against potential consequences that could bring pain or separation or death. The fear changes how you walk, talk, breathe, think, until it becomes so fundamental to your existence that you forget what it felt like to move through the world without it. Hope becomes a luxury you cannot afford. Dreams a danger that invites punishment for presuming to want something beyond your station. The violence follows patterns that reveal its true purpose beyond mere punishment. It escalates during times when other slaves seem restless, when whispers of discontent circulate through the household, when the master needs to reassert control over property that might be developing dangerous ideas about freedom. The timing is never random, always calculated for maximum effect, designed to break not just individual resistance, but collective spirit. The systematic nature of the brutality becomes clear through observation. its role in maintaining order more important than any specific transgression that might trigger it. The scars you carry are not just personal wounds, but social messages, written on your flesh for all to read. They speak to other slaves about the costs of resistance, to free citizens about the necessity of violence, to potential buyers about your history of defiance or compliance. Your marked skin becomes a form of currency in the economy of oppression, its value measured not in your pain, but in its effect on others. The messages carved into your flesh will outlast your voice, your thoughts, your dreams, becoming the only legacy you'll leave in a world that refuses to acknowledge your humanity. Yet even as these scars define your place in this world, they cannot erase the deeper wound of watching others live the life that was stolen from you. Free children run through the agora with laughter that echoes from a world forever closed to you. Their voices ring clear and bright as they chase each other between market stalls, small feet pattering against warm stones with the rhythm of pure joy. They dart around shoppers' legs, weave through clusters of citizens, disappear behind columns only to emerge giggling from unexpected places. Their game has no purpose beyond pleasure, no goal beyond the simple delight of movement and friendship. You pause in your tasks to watch them, your own childhood memories stirring like shadows, reminders of a time when you too could run without destination, laugh without fear, exist without the constant weight of others' expectations. Daily life in Athens constantly reminds you of experiences forever denied by your status. The city pulses with activities you can observe but never join, conversations you can hear but never participate in, celebrations you can witness but never share. You move through streets carrying goods or messages, your presence necessary but your participation forbidden. The very architecture seems designed to exclude you, with public spaces where citizens gather to debate matters that affect your life but never seek your opinion. Every corner holds reminders of the life you might have lived, the person you might have become, the future stolen before you could comprehend its value. You see young couples planning marriages, families sharing meals, citizens debating politics, all forbidden to you. The young man and woman walk hand in hand through the market, eyes bright with shared future promises, conversation filled with dreams of homes they'll build together, children they'll raise, lives they'll create as equals. At taverns, families gather around wooden tables, breaking bread while children climb into parents' laps and elders share stories connecting past to present. In the stoa's shade, men lean forward in animated discussion, voices rising and falling as they debate proposed laws, political decisions, their city's future direction. All these experiences remain as distant as stars, visible but unreachable, part of the world parallel to yours, but never intersecting with your reality. The festivals and celebrations happen around you but not for you, your presence tolerated but not welcomed. During the Panathenaea, the great procession winds through streets while you press against buildings to avoid being trampled, watching free citizens carry offerings to Athena while you remain excluded from the ritual, defining their community. Dionysiac festivals fill the air with music and wine, laughter and dancing, but you experience them only as noise and chaos interfering with your duties. Religious ceremonies gather the faithful in sacred spaces where your presence would be pollution, your participation an offense against the gods themselves. These celebrations mark Athenian life's rhythm, but you exist outside their embrace, a shadow moving through light never meant to touch you. You observe the education of free children, knowing that knowledge and learning are luxuries you cannot afford. Boys walk to school each morning, wooden tablets and styluses in hand, minds preparing to absorb Homer's wisdom, mathematics logic, rhetoric's beauty. You watch them recite lessons, young voices stumbling over complex verses that will one day flow like honey from their tongues. Teachers correct their posture, pronunciation, understanding with gentle patience, nurturing minds that will grow to shape the world. The gymnasium echoes with physical training sounds, young bodies learning discipline that will make them strong citizens and skilled warriors. All this investment in human potential passes before your eyes while your own mind remains untended, your capabilities unexplored, your intelligence dismissed as irrelevant to your function. Even poor citizens mock you, needing someone beneath them to feel their own worth. The man with patched tunic and holed sandals still looks at you with contempt. his poverty elevated by your bondage, his struggles made bearable by the certainty that at least he is not you. The woman selling wilted vegetables from a rickety cart speaks to you as if you're somehow less intelligent than her own meager circumstances, her economic desperation transformed into social superiority by Kambar, the simple fact of her freedom. These interactions reveal oppression's cruel mathematics, the way control systems create hierarchies that turn the suffering against each other rather than against the structures creating their misery. You witness births and deaths in free families, rituals of meaning that your own life and death will never receive. The midwife hurries through streets carrying supplies, called to assist at a citizen's birth who will enter the world with rights and protections you've never known. Funeral processions move solemnly through the city, mourners following bodies of those whose lives had weight, whose passing matters, whose memory will be honored with proper rites. New fathers announce children's names to the community, officially welcoming another free person into the social fabric. These moments of transition, these acknowledgements of human significance, these rituals marking existence's meaning remain forever beyond your reach. The proximity to normal human experiences makes their absence more painful. You stand close enough to touch the life you might have lived, to hear conversations you might have joined, to see the future you might have shaped. This nearness transforms denial into torture, making every excluded moment a fresh wound in your spirit. The free world exists just beyond your fingertips, so close you can smell food you'll never taste, hear music you'll never dance to, feel warmth of fires you'll never sit beside. You understand that slavery doesn't just steal your labor, but your humanity, your connections, your future. The system strips away not just freedom, but your very identity, your place in the human community, your right to exist as more than a tool. The life you might have lived becomes a ghost haunting every moment of the life you're forced to endure. This phantom existence follows you through your days, whispering of alternatives that can never be, mourning possibilities that died before they could take shape. As the day's final light fades from the sky, you realize that even the approaching darkness offers no escape from these torments. The night offers no refuge, only a pause in your labor before tomorrow's suffering begins again. The darkness that falls over the household brings no comfort, no gentle transition from work to rest that free people take for granted. Instead, it marks merely a shift in the type of misery you endure, trading the active torment of daily labor for the passive agony of restless sleep. The sun's disappearance signals not the end of your day, but its transformation into a different kind of endurance, where exhaustion battles against discomfort, where the need for rest wars with the impossibility of true peace. Even sleep becomes another form of deprivation, rest interrupted by vermin, cold, and the constant threat of midnight demands. The straw beneath you crawls with insects that seem to emerge only when you try to rest, their tiny legs tickling across your skin, their bites leaving raised welts that itch throughout the following day. The thin covering you're allowed provides little protection against the night's chill, forcing you to curl your body into impossible positions to conserve what little warmth your exhausted frame can generate. Rats scurry across the floor, their claws clicking against stone, their presence a reminder that you share your sleeping space with creatures that live better lives than you do. The constant threat of being summoned hangs over every moment of attempted rest, like a sword suspended by the thinnest thread. Your ears remain alert, even as your body craves unconsciousness, listening for footsteps that might signal someone needs something, anything, from you. The sound of movement from the main house makes your muscles tense, preparing to spring into action despite your exhaustion. Sleep becomes a luxury you can never fully afford, always conditional, always threatened by the possibility that your services will be required at any moment. You lie awake listening to the sounds of the free world beyond your reach, knowing morning will bring fresh misery. Through the thin walls you hear the distant laughter of citizens gathering at taverns, their voices carrying on the night air like echoes from another dimension. The soft murmur of families sharing evening meals drifts through the darkness, conversations filled with affection and planning for tomorrow's pleasures. Music from celebrations reaches your ears, melodies that speak of joy and community and belonging, all experiences that remain forever beyond your grasp. Some slaves whisper stories of freedom, but these are legends, not plans, hope too dangerous to nurture. In the darkness, quiet voices share tales of distant lands where no one owns other people, of places where all humans work for themselves, of times when slavery didn't exist. These stories pass from mouth to mouth like prayers, desperate attempts to imagine a world beyond the one that confines you. But the whispers never become plans, never transform into actual strategies for escape or rebellion. Hope proves too dangerous to cultivate seriously, too likely to lead to disappointment and punishment. Your dreams, when they come, are haunted by memories of the person you used to be before bondage claimed you. Sleep brings no escape from your reality, but rather a cruel reminder of what you've lost. Visions of a life when your time belonged to yourself, when your choices mattered, when your future stretched ahead bright with possibility. You dream of faces you once knew, voices that once called your name with affection, places where you once felt safe and valued. These nocturnal visitations wound you more deeply than any physical blow, showing you the ghost of your former self, the person who died when slavery was born. The exhaustion in your bones runs deeper than physical tiredness, becoming the weariness of a soul slowly dying. Your body aches from the day's labor, but that pain feels insignificant compared to the spiritual fatigue that weighs down your very essence. This exhaustion cannot be cured by rest, because it stems not from overwork, but from the systematic destruction of your humanity, the daily erosion of everything that once made you feel alive. You feel yourself disappearing piece by piece, your identity dissolving under the constant pressure of being treated as property rather than person. You count the days not toward freedom, but toward the end of consciousness, when even this pain will cease. The passage of time becomes a countdown not to liberation, but to the final exhaustion that will release you from this existence. Each dawn brings you closer not to rescue, but to the moment when your body will finally surrender, when the accumulated suffering will overcome your ability to continue. This morbid arithmetic provides the only comfort available, the knowledge that eventually everything ends, even the most unbearable circumstances. The realization dawns that there may be no escape, no rescue, no redemption waiting somewhere in your future. The fantasy of eventual freedom fades as the reality of your situation becomes clearer with each passing day. No one is coming to save you, no change in circumstances seems possible, no path to liberation appears on the horizon. This understanding settles over you like a burial shroud, suffocating the last remnants of hope you've managed to preserve. Night becomes a mirror of your bondage, dark, cold, and offering only the illusion of rest. The darkness reflects your interior state, the absence of light matching the absence of hope, the cold air surrounding you like the emotional isolation that defines your existence. Sleep promises relief but delivers only temporary unconsciousness, a brief interruption in suffering rather than genuine restoration. You close your eyes not in hope of tomorrow but in desperate need to escape today, even briefly. Consciousness becomes too painful to maintain, the weight of your reality too heavy to bear while awake. Sleep offers the only available form of temporary death, a few hours of non-existence that provide respite from the constant awareness of your suffering. You surrender to unconsciousness not because you expect tomorrow to be better, but because you cannot endure another moment of today without this brief escape from the prison of your own awareness. The morning will come again, bringing with it the same cold stone, the same empty stomach, the same endless cycle of labor and pain. But tonight, as you rest in your own bed, remember that your freedom to choose when to sleep was built on the suffering of countless souls who never knew such peace. The comfortable mattress beneath you, the choice to listen to these stories, the luxury of learning for pleasure, these are gifts that ancient slaves could never imagine. Let their forgotten voices remind you that human dignity is not guaranteed, that the systems we create can either elevate or destroy the human spirit. Sleep well, knowing that somewhere in history's shadows, people like you dreamed of nights exactly like this one.